Now here's some vocabulary for you with respect to agency that you have to keep straight, okay? The difference between a client and a customer, sometimes referred to as a third party, actually sometimes referred to as a consumer. A client is anybody who has signed an agency agreement, or what did we just say? An agency representation agreement, like maybe a buyer or a seller, a landlord or a tenant. When you have a seller who signs a listing agreement, that means they've signed their agency agreement and they're hiring the broker to represent them. A consumer or a customer or a third party is not somebody who has an agency agreement signed. They're not represented. They have not signed any kind of a representation agreement. Can you still work with consumers, customers, or third parties? All synonymous. Can you still work with them? Sure. Depending on your state law, you run some risk. You may or may not get paid because there's no agreement to get paid with them. But can you work with them? Yes, you can. So that's my note at the bottom of the slide. I want you to watch out for that on the test. Here's how it's going to show up on the test. You'll see the question phrased 2 or 3 different ways. Tom is working with a buyer, and the buyer has some questions about what they should do next. What should Tom do at that point? Well, the question said Tom is working with a buyer. That's the trigger in the test for letting you know that that buyer is a consumer. Tom doesn't represent them. So when a consumer or a customer asks you as an agent, what should they do about something, you have to caution them, I don't represent you. If you'd like to sign a buyer-broker agreement, I'd be happy to represent you and I can give you some advice. But be careful if you don't represent them about giving advice. So watch for the term working with in a test question. That'll be the trigger to let you know that that buyer, in this case, is a consumer or a customer and is not represented. How else would the question be phrased? Oh, Tom represents a buyer and that buyer has some questions about how to proceed or what to do next. Well, that's a pretty clear-cut case because it said Tom represents a buyer. So watch for those 2 comparisons on the test. Represents versus working with. Working with is a trigger to make you know that it is a customer.